Welcome to the Elite Athlete Podcast. I want to share today with you Coach Tyler Toon. Tyler is somebody that I've been coaching with for a couple of years. I've known him now, I don't know, going on 2.5, 3 years. But he's going to bring us a perspective today from a little bit younger coach and from the coach who doesn't have a coach who doesn't have a player on the team. So I think that's important for us to talk about as we go through our podcast and the coaching perspective. And so again, the purpose of our podcast is to just highlight the coaches, to show them some appreciation for their dedication and what they bring to us. So Tyler, I appreciate you being with me on this Sunday afternoon here in Arizona. Thanks again for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to start with just share a little bit about your background, kind of where you came from, where you went to college, and how you got into coaching.
Yeah. So I kind of grew up with a big family, 4 brothers. So I played every sport basically, before I was 10. Kind of played year round where whatever sport was going on, I was playing it. Once I started getting into high school, I was focusing on, I went basically football, lacrosse for the 4 years I was in high school. Graduated, went to ASU to be an IT engineer. So kind of graduated there, and so I kind of was kind of returned back to home, to as I was starting my career, and got reached out to by one of our family friends who ran the youth football organization that I played growing up, and they were in need of coaching. So me and my brothers got into coaching football that 1 year, and I kind of got the coaching bug there. So I kind of had the a position work that I was able to balance the two, and I've kind of been doing it ever since.
Kind of sounds like my experience. Like, I'm out of college, 1996. My old football coach said, "Hey, I need somebody to coach quarterbacks. Will you be willing to do that?" And it was 6th grade Pee Wee football, and that was 25 years ago. So yeah, you end up sticking around to that. So you got into coaching just basically because you wanted to help your old coach. So just kind of give us an idea of how long you've been coaching.
Yeah, so that was in 2014, I think it was. So this will be my 7th year as a coach, and between coaching football and then more recently helping out and coaching lacrosse in the spring, and then doing sevens, and so it's kind of turned into a year round deal for me.
Yeah.
So
you don't ever stop coaching, do you?
No.
I don't know if you've already mentioned that, but I know you and I have shared. You're now on staff at Higley High School on the freshman team as well. So you're getting coaching. You're coaching from everywhere, man. You're doing it all.
I decided to broaden my horizons, continue to sharpen my skills, and get that perspective that high school coaches go to college camps and get that mentoring and stuff like that. So I as a youth coach, I wanted to get that perspective of high school schemes, and so that way the youth football kids can get that experience before they get into school. So,
which I think that's valuable. So let's stay there for just a quick, like a second. Coming out of like baseball and softball, my experience with that has been, I've coached at the high school level, and it's I really enjoy that because players are a lot more coordinated. They have a lot more better skill set. But
Yeah.
you kind of touched on it going down to the lower levels. And I've coached like, I guess it'd be 10 year olds. And so that'd be what, fourth grade,
Yeah.
something like
Fourth,
that.
fifth grade. Yeah.
Fourth, fifth grade. Um, a little more fun, a
Yeah.
little more those. But I think what you hit on is that those kids are, um, they're capable of learning schemes and skills and plays and all that, which I don't think we learned a lot when 30 some years ago when I was that age. But like, what's your thought on that? Like in terms of developing these younger kids, like, do you think that
Yeah.
they have the ability to grasp some of the concepts from like the high school schemes? What do you think the value is for that for the player, and what do you do you think that helps them, hinders them? Just kind of give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful. I think going to a Wednesday night freshman game, or even going to a high school game, they can see similar routes and stuff like that. Out
Hmm.
5 yard outs and flood concepts and stuff like that. Very um, you know teaching it to a younger team, we have to kind of break it down to smaller chunks
Right.
so that um, they can comprehend and execute to the best of their abilities. So it allows them to do those things, to learn those things. So once they are ready to take that step into high school, coaches don't have to
Hmm.
um, explain, hard step out, or for offensive linemen, what a good stance looks like. They're not
Right.
having to tinker that stuff. The 1, 2, 3 steps coming out of their stance. Linebackers, how to read guards, different things like that, where we might be doing it at a very simplistic way. They're doing things that high school coaches
Hmm.
want their athletes coming into their school doing.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that well, as you were talking about that, I remembered, like, now I went to school early 90s, so we were playing pee wee football and stuff in the 80s. But the high schools that were able to go down and to connect with or mentor or help integrate their programming or their schemes and stuff
Yep.
into the um, pee wees or whatever you want to call those, um, the junior high programs, man, those programs were head and shoulders above everybody else by the time they got to high school. Because I think you're right. I think they were able to. Um, they didn't have to spend a whole lot of time teaching certain concepts because the athletes already knew them.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I think that that's something that's probably been more integrated within the last 20 years or so. Was that
Yeah.
something when you played Pee Wee? Was that kind of you were learning? I think you went to Red Mountain, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So
Went to
was
Red
that
Mountain High
something you
School.
started to learn at a younger age? Um,
There was
or
some stuff. There was some stuff. My Pee Wee coach ended up coaching high school with us, but yeah, there was not a whole bunch of like what I call like feeder systems in terms of
Mhm.
like um, your X school. They whatever X schools have this X program that
Right.
feed up to, that have like the freshman coaches coaching
Hmm.
that Pee Wee team, um, to basically get them an extra year into their program, so that way freshman year their foundation's set, and then they
Hmm.
can just build off of that.
Yeah, I think that's been something that um, I just think it helps the kids. I think consistency in coaching is really, really important. And I think it's good too. Like, um, we talk about that sometimes on the sideline of having those, um, having those high school coaches come down and touch base with the junior high and the smaller groups. Cause, um, we live in a large community. So there's multiple youth organizations. Whereas, growing up, I grew up in a very small town. So you would have one high school, one, youth organization, but I still think it's important, to help start those kids learning the proper techniques and the proper foundations, of the game earlier. Um, so talk to me about, how did you get into lacrosse? Like, not just at lacrosse in general. Was that something you picked up? Was that something you did um, from football? Like, how did it go?
Yeah, so actually, it was like fifth or sixth grade, something like that. It was one of my classmates did like a show and tell, and uh, showed a clip of kind of high school or college or something like that. Brought his stick in,
Hmm.
and like it's like I want to do. I was already kind of getting into football, but I was like, all right, I want to get into that, and that was kind of my intro. I did lacrosse, and then that next fall I started tackle football from there. So yeah, I was from sixth grade, and then it just kind of stuck. So so I did that from sixth grade all the way to high school, and yeah, never really enjoyed it. It was a very small club based
Yeah.
organization or deal in Arizona, so there wasn't a ton of teams. So we had basically a one team for I think basically all of Mesa,
Hmm.
and so yeah, so there was several high schools that kind of all the lacrosse players fed into that to that team. So yeah,
Well,
so yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I did that all the way through high school. I had some teammates and stuff, and I didn't even like coming from a small organization, small. I was not even thinking college was an option or whatever for
Mm.
and um, several of my teammates actually ended up going to Division One or high end Division Two schools playing lacrosse and got free school. For
Yeah.
if you can go for free and have some fun, have that college experience is invaluable. So
Tremendous. Yes, that's a tremendous. What a wonderful opportunity. Yeah, and I was going to add in there. I hope, incrementally as the years go by, that we continue to grow lacrosse here in Arizona and on the West Coast, and just, nationally. Because I think it's a really great crossover sport.
yeah,
In terms of, I highly recommend for athletes to be multiple sports, to do multiple sports. Um, Without it, I do think that there are a few sports that are beneficial to play year round. But I think overall, especially for males, um, the, they need to play multiple sports. And
yeah,
um, football is one of those sports it's very difficult to play year round. It's very difficult on your body. But I think that
yeah,
there's great crossover, similarities in lacrosse, football, probably lacrosse and soccer, lacrosse and basketball. It's one of those sports that really encompasses a lot of different concepts, from other sports, soccer as well. So, it's been one of my favorite sports to coach and to enjoy. Um, so we know how you got into coaching. So, one of the questions that I always am curious about with certain coaches is, and we talk a lot about this on the podcast. Um, Oftentimes, coaches, and I fall into this category, they end up coaching because they have coached before or they have played before and they have a kid on the team. I know you personally, so I know you don't have a kid on the team. Um, so let's talk about that. Like, how do you does that affect you? I'd say the first question is like, you could be doing anything. You're young, you're handsome, you're vivacious, you're building a family with your wife, why coach? Why, what propels you to do that when you could be doing 100 different other things with your evenings?
Yeah, I mean, it's a passion of mine. I think without the support of Melissa, my wife, being there, helping out, knowing that it's something I really am passionate about, is very, is invaluable. So,
Mm-hmm.
being not having kids on the team, or having kids right now, it's a good good outlet to get out, get moving, so luckily, my wife's now doing, helping out with the cheer program, and
Right.
so she has her, a group of girls that she can spend time with, and kind of give back to the community, and I think not having kids on the team helps, basically reduce or eliminates um, any doubt of like favoritism, right? So
Right.
some there, there's like a lot of criticism on different organizations across the country. Whatever sport you play, there's that like daddy ball thing where
Right.
your coaches kids the starting pitcher or whatever it is, right? Quarterback, and
Mm-hmm.
so it really reduces that headache of having to answer, um, you know, the whys, right? So I'm there volunteering my time, for
Mm-hmm.
free. Um, I, and it basically just boils down to, okay, is this, I play the best person at every position, gives us the best opportunity to win. Um, you know, win or loss, we're
Mm-hmm.
I'm always gonna give you know give it my best effort, and that's and I think a lot of parents can relax because they don't have to worry about like the politics of it is basically
Right.
what. So yeah.
I think that's cool because we talked before on other podcasts with some other coaches about the daddy ball concept. And I personally, just being in the recruiting space, I talk to a lot of families, and personally, I hear, you know, so many kids being discouraged because of that, and it's, there's three sides of every story. There's their side, there's someone else's side, and then there's the truth. But um, I think there is a lot of that discouragement where Johnny's better than Joey, and Johnny knows it. Everybody knows it, but Joey's uh, dad is the coach, and Joey's playing all the time, and that kid gets discouraged. He gets frustrated, um, and it leads to things like hopping to teams or just quitting altogether. And I think that that's
Sure.
discouraging. And um, we often talk about with the coaches that often, and I fell in this category. I was much more harder on my kid than I was any other kids,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to have that daddy ball thing. Um,
Yeah.
so you'd often set your own kid, or bat them last and stuff, and that also does the same thing. It does a lot of damage, and they get frustrated. So, um, but I think that's interesting. So you could kind of have some leverage where you're like, when somebody starts coming up and griping, you're like, hey, I don't have a kid on the team. Like,
Yeah.
there's no vested interest in sitting or playing your kid other than who's going to be the best kid to help our team win. And man, that's like your trump card, bro. You can just, I'd be like, boom, no kids at all on the team.
It took it so one year it actually took like half the season. It was several years ago now, and they're like, well, why are you playing your kid more than my kid? And I was like, it's like I don't have kids on the team. And they're like, and it was like, they didn't even like, they were just pulling it out. And
Right.
it was kind of like a whole, like foot and mouth thing. And
Right.
and I didn't use it to like, hey, anything very negative or anything. I was just like stating like, yeah, like I don't have kids on the team, and they're like, oh, you just do this for like fun, or for
Right.
fun or whatever. And I was like yeah, you're absolutely right. So, and
Right.
it kind of calmed them down. It was like, okay, like they're not out there for um their own self-interest, right? Acting or
Hmm.
living through their kid or whatever. So they could relax after that and let me
Hmm.
coach and make decisions and stuff.
Just let you,
So
yeah, just you're just like, hey, I'm gonna best interest in this. Um, when you were younger, did you want to coach? Like, did you, was that kind of the plan for you, or did you just said you kind of fell into it?
yeah,
You but like, was that something?
I didn't really plan on it. It was just kind of it was kind of something that we were gonna do. Some of my friends from high school,
Hmm.
a couple of my brothers, and yeah, so we started a team, and it was a 13U team, and yeah, we um, and it turned into something that I was became very as passionate about, to make it basically a full-time hobby.
Right. All of a sudden, you're like, I like this. Well, yeah, I always
Yeah,
think. I remember like for lacrosse, you're coming straight from work and like in your dress clothes, and it's like,
yeah,
yeah, this guy's coming from work, has no kids, and
yeah,
and it's cold. Like it's in the
yeah,
winter here, it starts to get cold when the sun goes down, and I'm like, dude, like I've been there and I know, but that's a difficult
yeah,
thing, man, to be like, gosh, I don't have any. Um, so yeah, so we appreciate, like I appreciate it. I know Michael appreciates it, and I'm sure a lot of the other parents appreciate that. But I just think that's an interesting um, dichotomy with parents, and I I would highly recommend, um, even for parents that listen to this uh, podcast and their coaches, take a season off or put your kid into a sport and let somebody else coach them, because I think that's a really amazing experience. And that was kind of what Michael played for you in lacrosse. I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and then this recent summer he played on a travel team where I wasn't the coach. But I think that was a really overall good experience for him, and it allows them to grow, instead of being under the shadow of their parents. So
yeah,
parents, if you're listening to this, take notice, try it, you'll like it. Um,
yeah.
so I want to talk a little bit about the pandemic and like just kind of the effects of on the kids. And I've shared that with a lot of football coaches. So from the football side, um, we didn't really have too much of an issue because we were coaching here in Arizona, not as many restrictions and stuff, but and we were able to have our season even though it was pushed back. Um,
Hmm.
but just overall, like from your experience, because I know you had previous or players who played with you previous that you were connecting with that were already in high school, and then of course, I mean you've been coaching 7 8 years, so just I'm interested in your observations of how how that impacted those athletes. Um, what were some of your observations? Just overall with that. How do you think they handled it? How do you think it impacted them?
Yeah, I think it I think the mental part of uh, the athlete that has done several of my kids that I've coached the last 4 or 5 years, they're getting towards the end of their high school career.
Hmm.
um, the mental part of like being a football player, it's is basically a full time gig. You're either in film, you're weightlifting,
Hmm.
or you're doing some kind of training in order to better yourself. And then the whole shutdown, I think, on it kind of messed with a lot of kids mentally of now the gyms are closed, now this is closed, so they had to do a lot, adapt their workouts and different things like that um, to home. And so yeah, I think I think I think it was very tough too, because especially a lot of kids that want to go to a 4-year school, want to play football, you know, in college. I think it's been very difficult in terms of trying to get eyes on them, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these kids are, juniors going into their senior years, or sophomores going in their junior year, and it's not having coaches, college coaches, um, in person, seeing how they move, how they work, how they execute drills and stuff. The dead period that was extended, I don't even know how long that was for, but not having that one-on-one contact to see,
Yeah.
a lot of times when coaches in college, they're recruiting, obviously talent, but a lot of it is um, will they follow or will they fit in with our culture that we have set in the school.
Right.
So that's the other part that you really can't do with with highlight tapes and different things like that. So so I think this I mean last two graduating classes were definitely difficult in terms of the recruiting
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I think even it's just kind of a little bit a lot of the same challenges for these batch of 22 recruits are kind of battling similar challenges.
Right.
So.
They're going to end up battling the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, just trying to get back into the swing of things, because you had kids with full seasons to kids with, literally 1 to 2 games or 0 games at all.
Yeah.
And so they're playing
yeah,
catch up.
the other part is that free year of eligibility that kind of pushes all the recruiting or the what is it, the amount of scholarships that high school or colleges are able to fulfill, right? So that's another year that that they got to pay, or that that has to come from somewhere, right? So
yeah, I think it's been well, clearly it's unprecedented, something that I would never even, I wrote in my blog, like in January, I'm like, there's no way that they're going to hold back college football. I'm like, the kids, basically I was saying, hey, this is going to go over. We'll probably have a short hiatus, but things will get back to normal soon. Kind of kids need to go play, and then, then things happen.
Sure.
But I think it seems like the NCAA keeps adding on a layer that makes it much more difficult for the next generation than for the next generation. Right. And I know, like, 3 years of eligibility, no more transfer, no penalties for transferring. And I know in baseball, I can't remember what it was in football. I think it was 20,000. But in baseball, I had to talk to a player, and the coach told him something in this nature of, there's like 3,200 guys in the transfer portal. 2,200 of those guys are Division Ones.
Yeah.
And there's tons of things, like a kid could say, I'm done with my 4 years, or I'm done at this school and I still have a year of eligibility, so I'm transferring back closer to home, or I'm just done in general, or, the roster is now 47 people and I don't have a spot. And that's been a really, really difficult challenge. But the problem is as those guys are shifting in the college, realm, what's happening to the next generation that's waiting in high school.
Yeah.
And they're going to JUCOs and they're going to prep schools and they're trying to buy time. And I think that personally, I wish the NCAA didn't do those things. I wish they would have treated it more like they did the high school kids. And, sorry, you lost your year of eligibility. Sorry, this happened, but it's time to move on. If it's really about education, this is just me thinking right now, but if it's really about education and not so much about sports, you tell an athlete, hey man, we're going to pay for your school. Even though you're not playing, you're still getting compensation, finish out your degree and start your life. And then they can move in the next generation. But that's not how the NCAA works. So
no.
It's going to be it's going to be a crazy thing. We mixed in two questions into one, so I don't know. Let's talk about, what do you enjoy most about recruiting, coaching? What do you enjoy most about coaching? And then tell me a little bit about what you want to do 5 years from now.
Yeah, so I kind of, I really like, I've been really liking coaching youth football, the last 7 years. Starting, as we talked, kind of getting into the high school game is a lot, is kind of the intensity's turned up, as it should, as these kids are preparing for that next level of competition and stuff like that. And I really like just seeing the light bulb go off, right? And whether you're whatever position they play, seeing that light bulb, right, of a kid that shies away from contact, all of a sudden is throwing he's throwing his whole body into tackles and making big hits out of nowhere. And I've had countless moments where I'm like, where did this kid come from? Where like Saturday yesterday, kid who was kind of slowly picking it up. All of a sudden it was light bulb moment, and he looked like a football player. And from coaching him only a couple months now to now, of just working Saturdays and just little workouts, giving him stuff to work on at home, is showing, he's showing those big steps where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yes, this is what we're looking for, so that type of moment where a kid's puts on his helmet, and his uniform, and all of a sudden at the end of the game, whatever, has a big smile on his face, thanking us for coaching. And that those are those things that kind of get to me, so it's one of it's a rewarding thing to give to these kids, the sport of football and sports in general, of the lessons that go with football, and that they can take home, take to school, and in life. So
yeah, well, I know we appreciate it. I know from a parent's perspective, we always appreciate head coaches and people who dedicate their time and haven't been on both sides of the fence. I know it's good to be appreciated. So we do appreciate that. So we're going to wrap up. I always like to ask this question to all of my guests. If there was one thing that I didn't ask you about, but you wish I had, so we could talk about it, what would that be? Would there be anything?
I think going into any sport, I think from a a parent's perspective, or kind of feedback that I always tell my parents is, kind of manage expectations, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
um, if Johnny was the best kid on his team the last couple years, he goes up a level, he goes, and all of a sudden things change from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
Check competition continues to raise up, and those are the things that like parents have kind of hard times
Mm-hmm.
struggling, because they kind of have that parent goggles on, right? Of Johnny is the best player of all time, and whether it's a youth football player or high school or going into college, right? Is you know you know let manage those expectations, and you know reward the work that goes into it, and not so much the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Reward the work and not so much the outcome. That's great stuff. Well, Coach Tyler, I appreciate you being on this afternoon. I appreciate your time. Look forward to working more with you on the sidelines. It's been a lot of fun. So I appreciate you being on today, and hopefully our guests will really like what you said. If they don't, oh well, who cares? No, we just have fun with that. But yeah, thanks again for being with us. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Mike.